All right, we are so stoked today because we have an amazing guest. It's going to be Katie Kuwahara. She's our wilderness transition coach, helping us at Wilderness Reboot, and we're so excited to have her. And what's up, Katie?
Hey Mark, stoked to be here. Coming in from Southern California at the moment. Yeah, just excited to talk about our story and how we met, and then just a little bit of my background, and I guess
Yeah,
what I'll
yeah,
be bringing to the program.
yeah. Well, we're so stoked to have you, and it's been a great journey working together and seeing where you're at now, and seeing this thing come to life. I love seeing like the surfboards in the background. So, where are you right now in the world?
I'm in Southern California right now. Over COVID, had moved back home to Riverside, California, with my dad to go back to nursing school, which was a transition in itself.
Yep.
And not one that I necessarily chose. So that was definitely a journey for myself, but it also helped me realize a lot of the ways that I had become very skilled at these transitions.
Right, right. That seems to be such a unique and I don't know, also common theme with wilderness therapy guides, and it's so ironic because it's like so authentic to helping alumni in their transition back home. Right? It's like something we'll definitely touch upon. So yeah, for folks listening, Wilderness Reboot again to emphasize is a transitional support community exclusively designed for wilderness therapy alumni. And so we're here having Katie just for folks to get to know her and learn a little bit more about, her experiences, what she's seen in the field, and kind of what she brings to the team. And so, yeah, Katie, let's just like dive into it. Uh, I love your story, and I feel like honestly, I don't know the whole story and all the cooler details once you left Pure Life down in Costa Rica. But for folks listening, why don't you just introduce yourself? Tell folks a little bit how you got into wilderness therapy, maybe, your different programs you work for, and yeah, just whatever you want to share.
Yeah, sure. So I went to college in San Diego, and I lived at the beach, pretty good life. And my, number one grounding, driving force in life is come to me through surfing. And that's how we met in Costa Rica when I was working for Pure Life. But before that, I used to volunteer for this nonprofit called Groundswell Surf Therapy. And basically, I was teaching surf lessons with a therapeutic component to that. And it was led by a therapist who has become a mentor to me. But I have always had a passion for getting outside and getting kids outside who maybe didn't have the opportunity, but there was never a wellness, emotional, psychological, sociological component to it that was so well thought out. Um, and I thought that was beautiful, because I've always sought that connection to a community, and just feeling a part of something is so important to me. And I think to just being human. So yeah, I graduated college with a degree in biology, and I was getting ready to apply to like med school and things like that. And um, I had gone on a little backpacking trip in between to South America, and I met a friend down there, and he moved to Costa Rica, and I said, "Hey, I want to move to Costa Rica too."
Hi.
And I was like, "How can I do this?" And I found Pure Life adventure therapy through that search, and they coincidentally were looking for a surf instructor who could,
Oh yeah.
be a part of a wilderness therapy program. I said, "What's wilderness therapy?" And my mind was blown. I didn't even know this whole world existed, and it is such a tiny culture, but it's so powerful. And I ended up working down there for a year with you, um, and my life changed in so many ways. I didn't realize how working with others, doing the work to change themselves, could have the same effect on me. Like, it was a complete mirror for myself, and values, strengths, weaknesses, what I bring to community, how I develop culture, how it changes me. It's just a really beautiful experience, all the while surfing in
Yeah.
a beautiful
Yeah.
place.
Yeah. I remember when
Yeah.
I came down and I had a little experience before I came to Pure Life. And when you came in, I was thinking, like, all right, this girl knows what's up. Like, and then I come to find out it was like your first wilderness program. I was like, what? Like, you brought so much passion and stoke. And I remember the first Doña Magella's, the surf camp down there in Uvita when we had our first itinerary there with Carolyn and our group. And I remember just like you spearheading all the metaphors because you really knew on like the molecular level, just having such a good relationship with surfing to really tying those lessons to things in life. And I remember that was something that was pretty cool to see in a co-guide. And that's like the beauty of having different co-guides with different fortes and different specialties and things like that. So yeah, it was so cool. So anyway, so you came to Costa Rica, obviously met. We could probably talk about that, share more if you'd like. And then yeah, what's next, what else happened?
Yeah, so obviously the pandemic happened and we moved to the United States, and I wasn't feeling like my wilderness therapy journey was complete, so I applied to some programs here domestically and ended up at True North in Vermont. And that was an entirely different experience, an entirely different culture and community environment. I mean, we're in these thick, dense woods of the Northeast. I mean,
Yeah.
just yeah, and just learning how they do things, and they learn primitive skills there, and watching the students kind of work through those, and watching different emotions and tendencies play out, and using that structure to kind of break through those old patterns. Um, and learning how to do those myself is so empowering, to start a fire by hand and do those kinds of things. So really, really cool. And then I just, kind of got tired of living out of my car and I wanted to develop my education more and on the psychological, psychiatric side of things,
Mm.
um, which as guides, we don't have that much information on. So I really wanted to like truly understand more on a scientific level,
Mm.
um, what these people were going through and some of the things that I was going through. So now I'm in nursing school, and long end term goal would be to be like a nurse psychiatrist, but we'll see. Long journey, still being written.
Right, right. Well, it's a process, and it's so cool how as I still stay in touch with you and seeing you on that journey as kind of my journey as well, getting my licensure hours and finishing up school, and like we model that too for students, like in groups, and we help create community, and we really help foster change and ideally resiliency and clarity and direction and just so many things. There's a lot, and we don't really do all of it, you could argue. There's a lot going on. It's the outdoors, the other members in the community, a lot of things. What have you seen working in multiple programs? What have you seen that works? What have you seen that didn't work? Is there anything that really stands out to you that makes this work so special for you, and kind of why you kind of dived into it?
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely right. It is a very dynamic, complex entity. I don't know how else to describe wilderness, but I think the common thread is one, there's like that change of scenery. Sometimes that really is the impetus for somebody to kind of like take a change in their life. But I think when you're out there, no matter if you're like in the middle of the ocean in Costa Rica, you're in some dense, boggy forest in the Northeast, I just, you have no more distractions. You have no more excuses. The only person that you can, you know, point a finger at is yourself in those situations. And all of the facades come down. We all look crazy, you know, we all, it's just really raw and really pure and a really vulnerable place to be. And when you're in a small group of six other individuals that are all doing the same thing, it's a lot. And to be there as a guide to kind of like almost facilitate those changes, but just allow those people the time and the space to let it all play out on its own is really, it's really moving.
Yeah.
And I think it's really contagious.
Yeah. Yeah, you said a lot of cool things there that I could piggyback on. Like, I mean, just the idea of, yeah, letting things happen. Like the idea of holding space and helping articulate to group members that it's okay to see things take different shape that may be uncomfortable at first, and trusting that process. And like what we see so much is like conflict. And you said mentioning like the facades coming off and the mask and people just being their authentic self. It's like that's also I think the appeal to wilderness is that there's no distractions, but also the real you comes out. Like you're going to connect with others, and if you have patterns at home, they're arguably going to show up in a 90-day wilderness experience. You're not going to just hide them for 90 days when you're a little bit out of your comfort zone, right? And then
A
to
hundred
make
percent.
that and being like, okay, we're guides, and okay, right now you feel like unsafe, but emotionally right now you are feeling this way perhaps because there's some bugs, and what can we do preventatively right here right now? Okay, we have like long sleeve pants and shorts, and we can cover ourselves in bug spray, and okay, now let's check in 10 minutes. Oh, we feel a bit better, and then what can we do next? And like just being in the here and the now, I think it gives us a sense of place and keeping us to the present. And so you've probably seen, a lot, and I think it's a fun time when guys get together and like share stories. Um, okay, tell me about like this idea of culture. Like obviously, I think for folks listening, sometimes they don't fully understand the relationship with students and the guides, and so like, could you kind of shed light on maybe a little bit more what that role looks like on a
Yeah,
day to day?
absolutely. I mean, I think in t it's exactly what it sounds like. A guide doesn't do things for you. A guide gives you the tools and a little bit of, guidance along the way to empower you to do the things that you maybe didn't even know you were capable of, and to like put you on that platform to be able to do it yourself in the long term. And something I learned along the way was one of the most crucial things that I could do was just point out to somebody and repeat to somebody if they were having kind of one of those aha moments, to just put a mirror in their face verbally and say, did you just hear what you just said? Or
Right.
can you reflect on what just happened right now? What are you feeling? Just hone them into that moment and just let the magic go from there. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, there is kind of a magic, right? It's like sometimes just that quiet, peaceful space with I don't know 5 to 12, sometimes up to 15 group members and co-guides. There's tears, there's a lot of joy, there's laughter, there's struggle, there's challenges. That's the whole thing. You get all of it, and that's life, right? You see the different stages of group development. The storming, the forming, the norming, the performing, and then eventually the adjourning, where
Yeah.
kind of a good transition
Yes.
to kind of like what we're trying to instill in our community. And then, so obviously our community that we're creating is exclusively designed for wilderness therapy alumni and the
Mhm.
people that we want, supervising it and cultivating it and, working inside of that is folks like us who are wilderness therapy guides. And so as this wilderness therapy kind of transition coach inside, like, what do you think? What do you think, in your opinion, and maybe what you've seen, is some considerations and some challenges that maybe a lot of students are having when they leave wilderness?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, obviously, a lot of students go to transition programs, which is like another extended time and it's very structured. And, that's a whole other entity on its own. But I think for the students that are ready to come home and take what they've learned with them and continue on to their regular day-to-day life, I think it's almost, I feel like there might be some sort of a mourning of a loss, because you go through so much with this small group of people and they have really seen you maybe like no one else has before, and you're this new person now, and there's, I think, a lot of temptation when you go back home, but maybe there's also missing that connection to your, your family that you built out there in the jungle or the woods or the ocean, whatever it is. And um, that's something that I felt personally when I made an exit as a guide out of that whole community into being a student again, and commuting in my car and being at a desk. I I didn't really know how to connect to people who didn't have these experiences like me. And every time, if I felt in a dark place or just feeling down, and I can reach out to one of my old co-guides and just kind of, have a reminder of like, Katie, remember that time you did this? Or remember when, the ship sank, just, and remembering the strength that I have in those situations and be like, oh yeah, like I surfed a 12-foot wave. I can get through this exam or something like that. And having those people there to laugh with and feel warm and just remind me of what I'm capable of, it feels good. And to be able to do that for them too just lifts me up as well. Um, and that's what I think is so unique about Wilderness Reboot, is that we can use technology, which, you know,
It's like
maybe
a juxtaposition.
exactly, exactly.
So funny.
But it has so much power too. And for the students to be able to fully bridge that gap, and maybe technology was a crutch for them in the past, but now they're at a place where they're ready to use it for something really positive in their life on both sides, to give back to others and to receive that love and empowerment as well. I mean, I'm stoked.
Yeah. Yeah, you said so many amazing things, and I kind of just want to let you run and giddy up and just go and just keep, because it's just this stuff is fun to talk about, especially for us. And but I love the one thing you mentioned about just making it kind of about tying it to your personal experience too, because I think authentically as wilderness guides, we can really relate with those students and alum, because this is like when we dedicate our lifestyles to this work, it's really demanding. Like it's a very atypical lifestyle and job, and
Mhm.
moving around and very transient, transitioning, and I think having that authentically, we can really speak to that in the lives of students, and knowing what it's like also those challenges for ourselves when we leave, and relating to our friends and our family who are not having those experiences. And like anyone in any community that's intentional, whether it's going to back to a alumni a sporting team or a yoga retreat or anything, any intentional community, they remember those relationships, because that tribe is unique, because it gets them. It knows the language. It knows the hardships, the challenges. For us, it's the breakdowns on the trails, and then it's like the triumphant, fun ceremonies and graduations
Yeah,
ceremony.
it's absolutely
Like
all of it.
and it's all encompassing. And for folks to leave that, whether it's alumni, students, or even guides, to come back to that community where they can always have a safe therapeutic space, they can connect, grow, they can network, they can just challenge each other, learn, get together. Perhaps the sky is the limit. There's so many great things in connecting with something like this that I think we can all agree is just very strange and fun, and like you said, dynamic. Like wilderness therapy, I don't think we'll ever be able to answer that question. We
No.
have Worldwide demystifying, wilderness therapy, and we have just so many pioneers before us,
Mhm.
and we're gonna hopefully continue that. Like, it's just a long journey, and wilderness therapy is just it's a wild ride, a fun ride.
No,
So
I absolutely agree, and I just feel like, life is full of changes, and I think we get better at them as we get older and we experience more of them, but part of it's taking kind of like down a list of like what are your anchors, what are your go-tos when you're going through change, when you're going through transition. And
Right.
just I think this is unique to wilderness therapy. Of course, it's Wilderness Reboot, but it's something that people can take with them forever, right? It's a lifetime membership. You can have this bond with, maybe there's someone in your area that you can connect with at home and go on hikes or little kayaking trips or something. And, we're going to offer quarterly trips as well. And what a cool thing to look forward to and, you know, enjoy the wilderness in a less intense way and incorporate that back into your life in a
Yeah.
more palatable way.
Right. Yeah, that integration is huge because kind of like you said, I forget the word you used to describe, but I kind of interpreted what you said as kind of like the honeymoon phase. Like I think when you come home, you have this great experience, and then it can get really challenging because I have all this different stuff. And I think as I evolve this idea of collaborating with students, and you and Jack and Rike and other colleagues and professionals and therapists, you know, I noticed in my work it was creating that momentum. It's like you're coming out of wilderness. You have someone now who's supporting you and relaying those experiences, that transfer of learning, and now maybe it's something aesthetically that looks different. It's not like the day-to-day climbing the trailhead, or getting to the top of the mountain or the rock face or the wave or whatever the adventure modality is. Now it's the driving license. It's the new job. It's
Yeah.
now social relationships. It's different stuff. But like tying that back, having that mindset support, and having ultimately just a support community because, like we've seen in wilderness on a virtual, and why can't you do the same thing? You cultivate culture, you foster and create an energy and a safe space where people are getting value. And at the end of the day, it's about them. It's about our members. It's about
Absolutely.
giving them something they can always come back to, like you said, a lifetime membership, something that they can, if they're perhaps a little bit later in life, finding themselves getting into the run of things and need a break and need a disconnect and need a wilderness reboot to come jump on a trip, meet up with alumni that they knew or maybe other alumni or other people they can connect with because it's just such a niche unique thing that you just can't talk to everyone about. And I think like we just know it as guides. I'm sure families listening to this, program directors, people, professionals. When you try to explain your work, people kind of it's like 1 foot out. They kind of know,
Right.
but then they kind of I think is it kind of this or that's not really that. Oh, but is it kind of like that? Is it? Do you guys like forage in the woods and what are you guys exactly doing? And it's there's a lot of magic to it. So to
I
just have
mean,
a tribe,
yeah, I mean, the way I see it is like, look, the groundwork has already been laid. These students lived outdoors for 3 months, okay? Like they have put in so much effort. They had continuous therapy for weeks. They went through a lot, and I feel like Wilderness Reboot can offer help with the maintenance and the refresher of that foundation. I mean, you do that for everything else. You have to, I take CPR classes every 2 years. I have to keep continual education for nursing school. We're all still learning, and it helps to do it with other people.
Yeah, love it. Katie, you're the best. We're so excited to have you on the Wilderness Reboot team. Keeping the stoke, keeping the energy, all the way from Southern California. Uh, so great to have you and just honestly catch up with you. And
Yeah,
we're so stoked. And again, Wilderness Reboot for folks listening, it's a transitional support community for wilderness therapy alumni students. Again, we are not a wilderness therapy program. We are not a transition program. We are just an additional resource serving a very select group and tribe of wilderness lovers. So thanks so much, Katie, for coming on. Hope you have a wonderful day.
thanks. Bye.
Bye.